Alasdair, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I kind of waited for you to say hi to me.
I know,
but I
and I
always
was
say
like,
hi to you first, and you kind of looked at me like, hello.
Yeah, what's up? What's new? How many times have you seen Wicked?
How many times have I seen Wicked? I've seen Wicked 3 times now. That's how many times I've seen Wicked. I'm hoping to see it again. I'm with my family this week. It's my brother's birthday, so we're going away for the week. Just to the Isle of Wight, little visit to the Isle down south. But I'm trying to coerce the holiday into making them all see Wicked because they've not seen it yet. But yeah, I'm back in my sculpting. I'm back on my usual shit. I'm back sculpting. I made the goat. Dr. Dillerman the goat.
You did. It's actually one of your best. Absolutely one of your best.
I'm really happy with that. I'm really chuffed with how that came out. And I made Fiero the other day. So if anyone's following me on my personal socials, you'll see lots of Wicked content on there. How have you enjoyed your post week of Wicked? Has it sat with you?
How am I sitting in a post Wicked world? I still love it. Like it was a cinematic moment that I've really enjoyed, and I'm really glad we come back together for it in a year.
Yeah.
And I saw a tweet that was like, you know, like from like the theatre community, of which I don't really identify at all. And they were like, I love how everyone is just going to see Wicked and is like, oh yeah, I get it. Just like, I get it now.
Literally.
Like, I've not seen anyone, I don't know of anyone, I've not seen any first-hand opinions where anyone went, yeah.
Do you know what? Simi Liu from Shang-Chi, he made a video and he was just like, you know what? I just feel like I need to say it. Like, Wicked's not for me. It's not for me. I'm just letting people know, like, I didn't really enjoy it. And I was like, as a public figure, whether or not you think
why would you attract the heat?
I would just keep that to yourself. Like, it's been so weird, but everyone knows how much I love The Wizard of Oz. So, like, obviously I love Wicked. But I've had so many people message me, like, randomly. Like, I've not been talking to them, and they go, Sam, I just had to tell you I loved Wicked.
Yeah.
As if I made the film. And I'm like,
got a lot of time for, like, at the very least, like, the filmmaking process behind it. I ended up watching this, like, architectural digest video of the production designer going through how he designed Shears and how he had to design all these different levels to it. And it was like a 50-foot high set. And so he had to do it really deep to allow water for all the scenes with all the boats up to like real height. So the highest parts of Shears could catch natural sunlight to give a reference for where the CGI would be filling in the very top of the building and like all the architectural influence into the design. And I was like, this is really impressive. And even parts of like the room that they share, the bedroom they're both in, like the windows are inspired by parts of like the Brighton Pavilion. Like there's just like details right across it that just from like strictly appreciating like the art of filmmaking that I love.
Fully. Yeah, for me, the costuming gets me. Like, I saw on... Okay, slight spoiler for Wicked. Like, as in for people who haven't seen, like, Wicked, the musical. I won't particularly say why, but on Fiero's cuffs on his sleeves, there's little, like, sheaths of corn on the cuffs of his sleeves. And then on like Elphaba's night dress that she wears, there's little dogs, because you know how like Toto the dog, there's like little dogs embroidered into it and stuff like that. And I think that Glinda was saying that in one of her outfits there's like bubbles embroidered into it, and it's just like the things that they like sneak into it. It's just like the actual artistry behind it, the costume design, the makeup, the hair.
Yeah,
I was talking someone who I worked with on my last job, one of my friends from it, she worked on Wicked, and I met up with her this week and we were talking about it, and she was just saying about how like she was there on the sets like while they were filming and like being in the Emerald City and stuff, and like the world that they built is just like she fully believed it while being there on set. I was trying to milk her for teasers for the second one. She didn't give me much. She gave me a couple little things, but she didn't give me much. But yeah, it just I'm very, very glad that it's as good as it is.
It was great. And I'm excited for part 2. But this is not
part 2.
Me too. Yes, and actually, I want to see it in person. So I want to see the real. I want to see the theatre show as well at some point soon.
You should. There's a few bootlegs. There's a really good bootleg that I like on YouTube, and I recommend people just go see the show. But if you've seen the show and you just want to watch the bootleg, they can't name it like Wicked full Broadway record because it'll get flagged. So my favorite one, it's called the Brat Slime Tutorial.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really good.
I love that. But this is a Doctor Who podcast. And not
is it?
You know what? You know what my colleagues found out about my Doctor Who podcast this week? Every so often this happens. I get exposed every now and then, which is inevitable. And I don't think no one at work listens to my pod. If they do, hello, goodbye, log off. But they, I was doing a Q&A session. I was hosting something at work, and someone afterwards was like, "Al, you have such a podcast voice." And then someone jumped in and said, "Well, he's got a podcast." And then they went, "Do you? What's it about?" And I was like, "Oh no!" And then I go, "It's a Doctor Who podcast." Like, "Oh, that's great."
Doctor Who, I love Doctor Who.
I love Doctor Who. And then anyway, then I won an award at work. Yeah. Just a silly little one. But to my then wider department, they said, I want to, this person's done this, they've done this, and it's a bit of a guess, is it for me? Is it not? And then they said, and I've just found out that this person has a podcast. And I was like, oh no,
You're like, oh
no. And then at the end of that, it was people going oh my God, what's your podcast about? And I was like, no, please. And I said, it's about Doctor Who. And they're like, oh, I used to be obsessed with Doctor Who. By which they mean 20 years ago.
That's always people's go-to. They're like, oh, Doctor Who? I used to love Doctor Who.
I used to love Doctor Who. Yeah.
Well, we still do.
We still do. And people are very impressed by the amount we've... How long have we done that? I'm like, 2 years? And they're like, oh my God, that's quite a long time. And
I know, this is the thing. People, and I was thinking, we make a little doc when we prep for the episodes, and this is episode 106, and I was like, 106?
106? That's ridiculous. Yes. Yeah. And here we are at the Five Doctors. We did a very long way round to get to the Five Doctors. We said, we're going to watch one of every Doctor going up to the Five Doctors, except we didn't watch a Fifth Doctor story because we're saying this is a Fifth Doctor story, except he becomes a bit of a companion in this story, to be honest. He's a little sidelined in this. He doesn't really lead.
To be honest, I feel like it's a... I don't know if I like this sound, but it's a 2, 3, and 5 story for me. I think 1 is in it, but becomes more of a side character. Maybe that's not fair. I don't know. We'll get into it, but no, he definitely he has to share his screen time in a way that I don't think other celebratory episodes make their incumbent Doctor share.
No. But we will get into all of that.
We'll get into it. But first, we reached out to you on all of our social media accounts, and here's what some of you had to say. Over on our X account, Ryan said, I thought it was a great story as I watched it for the first time last week. Loved the music cues and the respected Doctor's title theme as they were taken by the time scoop. That's really fun. I didn't really notice that.
I didn't notice that either.
No. Laura at House of Kaylee, friend of the pod, said, I have fond memories of it as my dad got it for us on DVD to watch together once he realised the success of making me into a Doctor Who fan with the revival. I love the layers of it as a multi-Doctor story, and honestly, it's just very entertaining and fun. Laura, completely agree.
Is this just the one episode that everyone's dad has used to introduce them to Who?
Basically, pretty much.
And then over on Blue Sky, Hamish, friend of the pod, said, whether it's good or not is beside the point, really. It's a precious, indulgent, lovely little gem of fun. Literally and figuratively action figures mashing together, but in a good way. More importantly, this blooper haunts me, and every time I watch this story, I keep expecting it to show up. And it's the moment where the First Doctor goes to eat the sandwiches that have been provided, and it's Richard Hurtle's First Doctor just absolutely devouring a sandwich and getting it all down his chin and then breaking into a laugh. It's something
so bad. I think is it a pineapple or is it a sandwich? Because I just have such a vivid memory of it dripping down his chin.
You're right. I think it's a bit of you're right. It's wet pineapple. That's
it's just all it is. I just remember it being wet. That was my memory.
It's literally dripping. Oh, it's horrible.
Gushy.
Then goes on to say, I will say the only thing I don't like about this episode is that it technically counts as the Doctor's reunion with Susan, and it really doesn't feel impactful at all. None of the other Doctors even acknowledge her.
No. Do you think that, if they do, and they better, if they do the Doctor and Susan reunion, do you think they will mention the five, be like, well, we had that adventure in the Death Zone, or do you think they just completely ignore it?
I think they're going to ignore it and do it a bit like, oh, that was us being, taken out of time, I don't really remember that happening type thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's gonna, I think it'll have happened, but in a way that they don't remember it.
No, fair.
Yeah, that's my feel. Well, without further ado, we'll give you a bit of context for the story. So this is a feature-length special episode produced in celebration of the show's 20th anniversary. It was aired... Now, this is quite shocking. It was first aired in the US on the 23rd of November and not aired in the UK until 2 days later.
I had no idea about this until I was looking at your notes, and I was baffled. So it was aired on the 25th of November in the UK?
Yeah.
Baffling, Matt. And you wouldn't have had iPlayer. You wouldn't have, like, in today's day and world, it means every single Doctor Who fan would have watched it on the 23rd because, like, A, they would have just aired it on the same day, or B, like, fans would have found it online.
Yeah.
To be a UK fan, the only thing I can imagine is, like, when an Avengers or a Marvel movie comes out early in one country and the other, and everyone else is just sat angry and waiting.
Anyway, so yeah, shocking, isn't it? The writer was Terrance Dicks. We talked about Terrance Dicks before, actually. I can't remember when we talked about Terrance Dicks, but we have talked about Terrance Dicks. He was a writer and script editor on Who from 68 to 74. And we also talked, I know we did, because I know we went through this list, about the additions Terrance oversaw, including...
Yes.
Including, it's quite a list. I won't say everything on the list, but the name Gallifrey or Gallifrey, the creation of Liz Shaw, Joe Grant, Sarah Jane Smith, the term regeneration, not the concept, but the term. What else? The Sontarans, the dematerialization circuit, the concept that the TARDIS is indestructible, that the TARDIS can be remote controlled, that the TARDIS has a telepathic circuit, that the TARDIS might be sentient, and multi-doctor stories with the 3 doctors.
That is quite the list. That's quite the list for
quite the list.
But it is funny how many of those things have just become so... I feel like that list and everything that came from An Earthly Child is exactly what the show is today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the development of the Time Lords and their society, which is quite critical.
Yeah. Well, I do find it mad that Gallifrey wasn't mentioned for... I don't think it was mentioned until something like the 3rd Doctor's... Or maybe even the 4th Doctor's, like, by name. Gallifrey. It's a mad one, yeah.
Gallifrey.
I'm obsessed with the pronunciation of Gallifrey and Cyberman. The Cyberman. It's like a Doberman. The Cyberman.
Yes, and it was directed by Rodney Bennett and had a, I'll just say, healthy viewership of 7.7 million viewers. They also aired it in a serial in 4 parts as well. And I think that got more like 4.5 million viewers. It sits on an IMDb score of 8.1 out of 10. Does that mean anything in this context? Not really.
Well, I mean, people retroactively put it. I think I'd be interested to see what the IMDb scores, what the overall ratings change when episodes have been out for a while. Because, like, obviously, classic episodes, no one was doing Letterboxd in the 1980s. But all the new episodes, like Shooty Season, the IMDb score will fluctuate so much compared to, like, right as soon as it's come out compared to, like, a few months or even years later. So it's interesting to see.
It is. And then, if you haven't seen the story, we always recommend that you go and watch it on iPlayer, or indeed for the classics, that you go and find the collection, because I think, or indeed the DVDs, I think they really are quite different in terms of like updated special effects, and even something I wouldn't have noticed, but I don't think the sound is in stereo. I think it's in mono, which is like something you take for granted, but there was something about like a later release. It's like, oh, it's been remixed for stereo, and I was like, oh, how modern! It's been remixed for stereo sound. You can hear on the left and the right. How incredible!
I was so used to watch this on my like upscale DVD version. I was watching this, I was like, oh, the triangle's back! Like, it's the triangle.
The triangle's back.
Triangle.
Yeah,
the triangle's back.
We did a bit with the triangle, and our effects that we did with triangle.png on iMovie are actually identical to the
It's literally the same. It is the exact same.
The exact same. So hopefully you've gone away, you've watched the story, you can do it in one sitting, it's 90 minutes. If you haven't, or you remember it loosely, you need a bit of an update, you need a bit of a reminder what happened in that story, we've got a handy recap for you.
We do. A mysterious triangle is plucking versions of the Doctor out of their timelines, along with familiar faces like Susan, Sarah Jane, and the Brigadier. The Fourth Doctor and Romana nearly get scooped up too, but instead end up trapped in the time vortex, their archive footage spinning endlessly into limbo. Something or someone is collecting them.
Meanwhile, the Fifth Doctor senses something is very wrong. With his companions Tegan and Turlough, I always think it's Furlough, the Turlough scheme, he heads to investigate, following the disruption back to his home planet. When the gang arrives, they find themselves in a dangerous and desolate place.
In the Gallifreyan Citadel, the High Council of Time Lords is in a panic. Someone has reactivated a time scoop, an ancient and deeply unethical piece of technology that grabs beings from across time and space. The Time Lord President Barusa summons the Master and offers him a shiny new set of regenerations in exchange for helping him rescue the Doctor.
The Doctor and the companions are in the Death Zone, a long-buried secret of the Time Lords. It was once used for their gladiatorial games, where combatants from across time and space were forced to fight to the death for the entertainment of Gallifrey's elite. The Doctor and co. are the latest unwilling contestants, dodging Daleks, Cybermen, and a diva in lycra as they make their way to the tomb of Raston at the centre.
As they edge closer, it becomes clear there's a puppet master pulling the strings. The Fifth Doctor discovers that someone on Gallifrey is orchestrating the chaos, and the trail leads straight to Barusa. Turns out the Lord President wants immortality, and he believes that the tomb of Raston holds the key. He's been using the Doctor to dismantle this force field protecting the tomb, clearing his path to eternal life.
Inside the tomb, ominous writing spells out, "To lose is to win, and he who wins shall lose." Barusa is not put off by the spooky warning. Using a mind control device, he forces the Fifth Doctor to help him. Raston appears, and Barusa demands immortality. Raston obliges, handing him a magic ring. Barusa slips it on and promptly realizes that immortality in this case means becoming a decorative addition to Raston's tomb, forever.
Dun dun dun. With Barusa defeated, Raston sets things right, sending everyone back to their rightful place and time. The Doctor refuses his offer of immortality and say their goodbyes. Chancellor Flavia shows up to announce the Doctor is now the Lord President of Gallifrey. Not thrilled about the new job title, he decides there's only one logical choice. Leg it!
Leg it! We're off, Tegan!
We're off to see the TARDIS and run across all time and space.
Drive! Drive! Make me president again!
Oh, I mean, a bit of context for the audience, for us as well. Yeah. I have a lot of nostalgia for this episode, so I think I got this DVD on maybe my 10th birthday. It was, I think, my first classic episode that I properly watched, and I was enamored by it. I loved this episode. So this would have been maybe 2007 that I got it, so around the time Series 3 came out, and I just this is such a comfort episode of mine. I think I probably have a similar relationship with it that people who watched it at the time have, where I was a real young child when it came out. I really, really like it. So I'm coming at it from this lens of nostalgia. Whereas Alasdair, which is quite fun for this one, we have different views that we're coming from it at.
Yeah. I know I saw it before this. I just can't think when. And maybe it was when I got the DVD of it, when I went through a brief phase of collecting the DVDs because they were all £1 in CX, and I was like, yeah, I'll get that. So I knew the story, but I hadn't really paid as much attention to it as I did this time. So yes, my memories of Classic Who are different because I didn't see any Classic Who before 2005. And when I did see it, it was through the lens that my uncle, who was very funny and very witty, had collected tons and tons and tons and tons of the classic DVDs. And so every so often, if we stayed over with my aunt and uncle, he'd put on one of the classic DVDs. And when he did, he was very quick to point out what was funny about it. So we didn't ever take it that seriously. One of my earliest memories of it is, I think, when they have to get the Fifth Doctor into the Zero Room in the TARDIS or something. And there's elements of it where he's levitating in a box and there's things but it was all a bit of a laugh. It was a bit oh, look at this, look how silly it used to be. But he clearly enjoyed it because he collected buckets of it and had this massive just library of Doctor Who knowledge in his head. And here we are doing Wholala. Clearly I was inspired.
Exactly. I think I probably would have been like your uncle. I'd have been here's all my DVD. Do you know what? I started getting rid of some of my Doctor Who DVDs because I was they're on iPlayer. They've taken the Daleks in colour off of iPlayer.
There we are. You need
it's
physical
not there
media,
anymore.
baby.
Gotta have the physical media. Well, yeah, so to jump in, I've you like to kind of categorise your notes. I kind of just did a running train of thought as the episode went on.
That's great.
I'm not going to read all my thoughts because it is about 3 pages of A4 writing
Sure.
in total. But the main thing that I want to say from the go, so I love this episode. It's not an unflawed episode. There are flaws to it, and we'll get to those. But I love this episode, and I personally think that this is one of the best, if not the best, anniversary special they've ever done. I haven't actually watched The Three Doctors, so I feel like I can't really say that until I've seen that. But from what I've seen at the moment, I think this is the best anniversary special. The main thing I feel is that every character and every cameo is like there for a reason and serves a purpose. And I think the way they've written out the Fourth Doctor, because Tom Baker didn't want to come back for it, is so smart, because not only do we see new footage, not only is he like referenced throughout, but it's not just a way of writing in his character, it's a way of writing an extra like level of peril. Like if he doesn't solve this, if we don't solve this, the Fourth Doctor might be erased from time, might be lost forever in the time stream. And so it's such a clever way of not just being like, oh, he couldn't make it, like, oh, well, he's not here. It adds so much threat and peril to it that I just think that the way that they wrote around having some characters in and some characters not, and some characters just pop up for cameos, is so good.
I see, on the contrary, I thought it was so obvious what had been done. I just felt like, maybe it's because I know the context, obviously, but it was, I mean, I liked that they had quite a long scene of the Fourth Doctor doing his punting in Cambridge, though it did feel a bit out of place with like how long he was given for his pun compared to the
I
other
do
doctors.
love the trees.
But I felt like when Romana and the Fourth Doctor are scooped, a few things. One, I mean, I don't want to get too like particular about effects because, like, you know, classic Who, TV budgets. Whatever.
Oh, it's a picture of them not in the boat.
It's not even that. It's like they get scooped from the boat and they're not in the boat, but the punting stick is still like just sort of stood up in the water by itself. Anyway, and then when they are, no, you're right. It's not a picture of them in the boat. It's like, it's clearly a set photo of them, like on a different set, on a different day, in different costumes, doing something else. It's almost like a promo pic. Like it's almost equivalent to that one, like Sontaran.png, but you know what I mean? Like a little bit.
Yeah.
And but they sort of distort the image. And they're like, oh my God, look, he's stuck in the vortex. And it's just like, it's just a promotional picture made wavy. I understand why they didn't want the Fourth. I understand why Tom Baker didn't want to be in it, which I think was I think partly that he was like, oh, it's too soon, everyone just left. I think I would assume from what I know about his attachment to the character that he didn't really want to share the screen with the other Doctors. And he was kind of like, if I'm going to be the Doctor, I'm the Doctor. I don't get a feeling that Tom particularly wanted to share that part with other people at the same time.
It's interesting doing this as a Wholala episode after we've done the sort of scrapped 90s movie concept. Also, I was just going to say, the photo of them that they use actually is from Sharda, so it is still the costume. I just know we're going to get people questions like, actually, they are in the costume. But you're right, that they're in like another room later in the story, so they're not on the boat. And I do find it funny. I think when they remastered this, when they get plopped back at the end, you know, like fours on the floor and Roman's hard, like, quickly, Doctor, come back. I think when they remastered this, to my memory, and please, people, if you're listening, tell me if I'm right, they arrive back on the punting boat. I think in like versions later,
too.
They get like plopped back on the punting boat. So I think that's like been amended and like quote unquote fixed in later remasters. Right. But I mean, I completely get you. So for anyone who doesn't know a bit of context to this, the episode Sharda, which is a Fourth Doctor Romana story, was partially filmed, and then there were writer's strikes and strikes within the BBC, which meant they couldn't finish filming it. I think now they've kind of Big Finish style recorded audio for it and then animated it, so you can watch the episode in its entirety as a mix of film footage and animation. But at the time, the footage of Thor and Romana was unseen to the public, and so for the audience watching, it was new Fourth Doctor and Romana footage, which made me have such a yearning for future anniversary specials like in New Who. I want them to use deleted scenes from previous New Who episodes. So I just think it's a really smart way of being able to have new 4 content and then have it, like, yes, it's clearly a plot device that's like written in to be like, oh, he's not here, he's stuck in the time stream. But I just think it's smart to like add that extra level of peril in the same way that towards the end, when they bring back companions like Liz Shaw and Mike Yates and the Second Doctor's companions, they get their cameo, but they're not clogging up the whole story by being there the whole time. And they're not just there for no reason. They're there again to add another level of peril and threat and fear to the Doctor. And I just think that they do that quite a few times. I think that's quite smart.
Yeah. I respect it.
What do you think of this episode?
Overall, I think it's fun. I think it's a really fun story. I love the idea of the Death Zone. I think it's a cool story. I like the idea of a corrupt Time Lord wanting immortality and, you know, using the forbidden time scoop to do it. I particularly like the inclusion of the Master in this. I think the Master is a standout character, and I think this Master in particular is really entertaining. There's a few like silly superficial elements of it that don't work so well for me. There's interactions that don't satisfy me in this as well. Yeah. I think there's a difference in attitude, and I've heard that classic Who, and I see it in this story, tends to treat different Doctors as different, like quite distinct individuals, which for me is a weird shift, because I think in New Who they really, 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 really push, like, it's me, I'm the same man, I'm the same guy, it's the same soul, the same values, but I present that in different ways. Yeah. And so they all very much talk to each other as, like, you know, the first Doctor, who is the youngest, they kind of lean on him a lot as like the wise old one. And there's other points, you know, the first Doctor talks about the other Doctors and is quite like, come on, my boy. And it's, you know, it's just a very funny way of interacting with one another. And the companions in this, I mean, no warmth that I really sense from the Doctor to his companions. But I feel their roles are a little sidelined in this as well. This is where I really felt like I saw a lot of companions as assistants. And also important to say, like, this is all with the caveat as well that, you know, I'm pretty new to a lot of like all of this classic Who, so this is all based on one story, and that's not to say like, oh, in this era this is how the relationship was with the companions, because we've seen that it isn't, because we've just done a bunch of the classic stories that I really enjoyed. So I think mixed overall for me.
No, I think that's true. For me, my biggest gripe with this, okay, well, two things. I completely agree with the point that you were saying and that other people have made, that I think that there's not enough time or dedication written to Doctor's reunions with previous companions, namely the first Doctor and Susan. Like, she left him, he said he'd come back, he never came back for her. She's like, grandfather, it's you. And he's like, Susan, could it be Susan? And that's about all the reunion we get. You also kind of see it with 3 and Sarah Jane as well, where you'd expect them to have kind of a school reunion, and it's just like, Doctor, it's you. No, it's you. You've changed. Da, 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 da. But I think for me, A, it's a classic Who thing, and B, it's a time thing, where this isn't a story about what would happen if the Doctor were reunited with the companions he's dumped. This is let's chuck everyone together and have like a big melding pot of things we like about Doctor Who. So I'm kind of willing to forgive it. The thing I don't like, and I'd say it's the only main thing I don't like, is how they write some of these companions. The Susan one doesn't bother me as much because, like, at least, and again, this is coming from, like, someone who hasn't seen her entire era, Susan was always a fairly sideline character to my knowledge anyway. Grandfather. But I really hate how they write characters like Sarah Jane in this, because, yes, there were definitely moments in her era, and I've seen quite a lot of Sarah Jane's era, both with 3 and 4, where she was a damsel in distress and like, Doctor, oh no. Or like, even last week when we watched The Ark in Space, she's stuck in a tunnel and she's like, I can't go any further. But in this, every single time Sarah Jane's on screen, and it's not something I've really noticed until this rewatch, she is combative, she is frosty, she is snipey, she is unwilling to do things, she's the damsel in distress, and it's just quite unlike her character. Like, I'm thinking of, there's an episode called Robot, which is Tom Baker's first story, and part of the story, Sarah Jane goes off by herself because they're trying to find this mystery, and she's like, well, I'm an investigative journalist, I can just go and pretend to be a journalist, and she like has her own mini adventure, and she's very independent. Whereas in this, it's just a real different way of writing her, and I'm so glad they then brought her back in New Who and gave her sort of the reunion that I think we deserve. I do like the little nod in school reunion, because he says, she was like, oh, you've regenerated, and he said 6 times since we last met. Which I quite like, because I think that includes then, you know, not just from the 4th Doctor, but going on from the 5th Doctor, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 6th Doctors. So Yeah, that was my main thing I didn't like about it, is how they write some of the companions in this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree. There was a moment in particular that made me yell, which is Sarah Jane kind of arrives like, oh God, like, where am I? What's going on? I should have listened to K9. And there's a little bit of overacting that happens, dare I say. I mean, it's really camp and I enjoy it. But like when she first sees the time scoop, she like runs full force into someone's like front garden. She just like launches herself into a hedge and it's just like, no! And dives into a hedge. She falls in this field on a very gentle slope, like a gentle slope. And she's like, oh God, she's like fallen and she's like, oh my, what am I going to do? And the third Doctor turns up because he's been scooped, but he's been scooped with the car. So he's been scooped with Bessie. So the Doctor's here in his Ford Fiesta and he's like, what's going on over there? And I don't know if he even knows it's Sarah at this point, but he throws her instead of just going over on this very gentle hill and being like, oh my God, you're right. Can I pick it? Oh, Sarah. Oh, Sarah. God, it was you. Oh, let me help you up. He chucks her a rope, ties it to the car and drags her on
Oh my God, he
front.
tows her.
He tows Sarah like she's cattle back up the hill. And then it's like, up you get. And then she's like, oh, I've never been so glad to see someone. And I'm like, she should be filthy, bruised. It was just, there's just like so little warmth. And she's like, no, but it's you, like it's you. And like it's.
Oh, it's such an iconic like interact when he's like, teeth and curls. Yes, or maybe I did, but I haven't yet.
Yes, but I haven't yet. But I will. But he's very straight with her. He doesn't, he doesn't give much away in terms of like, oh, I'm glad to see you again or anything like that. There's that. There's also just, I think, with I think, well, we'll come on to this now. No one's that happy to be reunited with Susan. And I think maybe in the context of season 1, now that it's come back as a bit of a plot point, now that it's unambiguous, according to RTD, that the Doctor never went back for Susan. Which is, according to, his version of the TV canon, and it's not the only canon, and there's been different spin-offs and books and audio where that does happen. But it was originally written as well that Susan would just refer to the Doctor as Doctor. And it was Carol Ann Ford who was like, no, like, I have to call him grandfather. I think she said this in 2013. And they were like, we can't do that. She's like, well, I'm not doing it then.
Yeah.
And I think it was Jonathan Nathan Turner, who is the producer, who basically didn't like the implication that the Doctor had sex and was like, no, like it's icky. I don't like it. Like, can we not do the grandfather thing? So I think it was quite a late swap that they were like, okay, grandfather. So I think they'd just written her as another one of like these, dare I say, fairly interchangeable companion roles in this story. And then later they were like, okay, we'll give her grandfather instead of Doctor, but without then writing in any of the warmth that comes with that relationship. Yeah. So it didn't feel super coherent on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a difficult one because I feel like you could have Anniversary Special of its own accord, which is just the Doctor's reunion with Susan. Like, that could be a story in itself. And it's tricky putting her in a story like this where you don't have the time for that kind of reunion when she is just kind of like another cog in the wheel. But I think the reason why it doesn't bother me so much and why it doesn't stand out to me awfully is because I think that's true with all the characters in this. The only character who I think has really paid his dues, and I think because that really pays off, is the Brigadier. I think you see him and you see he's retired and you see that he's got his successor with him and he's having like a retirement party and he's going to do a speech and stuff, and the Doctor's come to like see his speech. So you get a little bit of a catch up as to like, and here's what you missed on Glee, like this is where the Brigadier's at from when we last saw him. And I think that then really pays dividends as we see him. My biggest takeaway from this, is so funny watching this in kind of like an analytical eye rather than just like as a consumer. I adore Tu and the Brigadier's relationship in this.
Yeah.
The way that they like, and they didn't even have tons of on-screen time together in the original run. I think I'm going to save my fun facts, but I'll talk a bit about what the original, because the Brigadier was always going to be in this, but he wasn't originally going to be paired with Tu. So he didn't have much on-screen time with Tu during his era, but they like the way they bicker, they're kind of just like housewives. There's a bit when the Doctor is singing the above, between, below nursery rhyme, and the Brigadier's like, "Are you in pain, Doctor?" And he goes, because he looks older than the second Doctor knew him. He's like, "Well, I see that age hasn't mellowed you, Brigadier." And it's just so, I love the way that they react together, and they're kind of just like, every time a threat comes up, they're just kind of like, well, this is it, I guess.
Well, we're trapped.
We're trapped.
Well, Doctor, Yeti is clawing at us, and we're trapped in this cave. And the second Doctor's just kind of... The second Doctor actually looks alarmed all the time, which is really funny. Like, it's just kind of, oh dear. Oh dear. He's sort of patting his pockets on his, like, absurdly big, fluffy coat. On the coat, by the way. Come back here with me. On the coat. Reese Connolly of Gallifrey Cabaret put on the story the other day, this coat in the Rita Ora collection at Primark, and it looks so much like the second Doctor's coat. And it also looks a bit like Pat Butcher's coat, and it also looks a bit like the coat on the monkey that was in IKEA that one time. Anyway, I need to get hold of this coat. I don't think many people do a second Doctor cosplay. And I was suddenly thinking, I could do that little, like, mop block.
My God, I think I found a picture of it. I'm just looking at it. It's so
the Rita Ora fluffy coat.
Is it that one?
That's the one.
Oh my God, that's so second Doctor coded.
All you need is that, a bit of string, and some tartan trousers. You're off.
Maybe a recorder.
And it's like a little mop wig. So anyway, if you see me at Gallicab, you know what's coming. So what was I making about? Oh yes. So he's feeling around in these pockets, and it's kind of like, how are we going to get out of this one? He's pulling out all these various, like, I don't know, whatever's in his pockets, and produces basically like a stick of dynamite, lights it off the Brigadier's candle. It starts fizzing and sparking everywhere, and he sort of lobs it at the Yeti, which only goes to, like, piss off the Yeti even more. And they're like, he's like, what was that, Doctor? What have you just thrown at it? He's like, it's galactic glitter. Sure.
You're like, okay. This is why I'm so willing to forgive all the silly and camp and also the, like, odd shoddy writing in this episode, is because, like, things just happen in this episode. Yeah. Like, things just happen, and you kind of have to, like, even, like, with K9 and Sarah Jane, like, obviously, like, in universe, it's come off the back of K9 and Company. The Doctor gifted Sarah Jane K9, she has it. But, like, if you just watch the TV show, you wouldn't know. Like, Sarah Jane never met K9 and Doctor Who, like, the TV show. So all of a sudden, here's Sarah Jane and K9. Like, what?
They really wanted that to work, didn't they?
They really, and I'm glad they did it. And I love that they stuck with it, like, for New Who as well. But, like, it just, I don't know. Like, Bessie's there. You do, exactly. Just don't overthink it, I think, is kind of the rule here. And also with all anniversary stories, I mean, like, when it came to, the 50th, the 60th, all of them, like, switch off your brain. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's a laugh. It's really fine.
It doesn't matter.
Never that. You know what? It is not that deep. It is never that deep.
It's not that
like, even
deep.
Like the fact that, like, the second Doctor's older in this. There's a continuity error where basically the second Doctor says to the apparition of Jamie and Zoe that, like, oh, you would have no memory of your time with me because your minds were wiped by the Time Lords. And right after they did that, he then was forced to regenerate. So, like, how would he have had time to go and visit the Brigadier, you know? Like, it creates a plot hole, but then, like, some people have created this whole canon, which I quite like the idea of, that before they made him regenerate, they sent the second Doctor off on all these missions, and that's also where he regenerated into the fugitive Doctor. I like that theory, but also, just let it happen. It's just, also, it's there.
They're about to ruin that theory, because I think in the War Games, they are doing a new... enhanced regeneration in the new style, which I don't think they should do, by the way. I think it's better.
You never see him regenerate. You never get a 2 regeneration.
No, but there's a bit of a, like, no, and it's a bit, it seems like
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, I look forward to seeing it. I quite like the variety regenerations sometimes as well.
I think, because what you see from 2's generation in the War Games is that thing where, like, lots of different heads of him are all floating around. He's like, yeah. I think they'll still do that as, like, that's them, like, casting the spell of, like, making him regenerate on him. And then the actual regeneration, what you'll see when he's back in the TARDIS. I'm excited. Did you see in the 90s there was a Doctor Who fan film, in the same way that there were all these other, like, films in the 90s, where another actor played the second Doctor, and he then regenerated into John Pertwee, and they had hired John Pertwee for this. It's like a clearly 90s John Pertwee, filming the second half of the Regeneration. It's so weird. Like, it's out there. It's clearly a fan film, but it is Pertwee.
So, costumes in this episode. The second Doctor's big fluffy coat. The Master's cape as well, with like the really high, like, evil collar he's got. He looks like so, like, Maleficent coded in this as well. And Sarah's, like, see-through purple coat thing. I love it. There's a lot of good costume moments. Susan's jumper and like the frilly thing she's got coming out the top of that. Loads of great looks in this episode. I'm big on the outfits.
It's a lovely blend of like a third Doctor John Pertwee look that we know and like a new piece. Like underneath, I think he's wearing like the velvet suit with like the crushed collar, which he would always wear, but then this new like sort of tartan print on the top. Like I love, I completely agree. I think that the costumes, the hair, and again it's my same comment from my last episode, the hair is all very like 80s, but I get that like a lot of the companions were like scooped. I mean, I think Susan was meant to be left in like, what was it, like 2110 or something like that, so I just love the idea that that's what they're wearing then.
That's what they're wearing.
But yeah, like the Sarah Jane costume in this is so, I just wish they would do it as an action figure. It's such an iconic Sarah Jane look that I just think it's so good. I also love this, it's not exclusive for this episode, I love the Cybermen design in this era. That big boxy head, that like their voice, the Cybermen in this era sound a little like Bane, like when they're talking.
Yes.
I think that's it's I also, you sound like you were going to like say something else then. What were you going to say?
Well, the monsters in this episode are a little inept. I mean, they're not inept. They're just not good. Question mark? No, like, there's a Dalek early on and they're quite like, right, Susan, right,
that's
we're
a hodgepodge Dalek.
When that Dalek comes through that door, we just need to push it into the corner. And then when I say drop. And so they kind of shove this Dalek, and then the Dalek panics and is like, exterminate. And the Doctor goes, drop. And then ages passes, and then the Dalek fires. And then the bolt bounces around all directions and probably should have hit them. And then eventually bounces back on itself and explodes. That's the end of the Dalek.
It just kind of hits itself in a mirror.
Yes. And then the Cybermen. There's a very funny moment when the Fifth Doctor and the Master are just having a conversation, just on the moor. And over the Master's shoulder in the very far distance, a Cyberman kind of steps into frame and is like watching them talk to each other. And then we get a close up on the Cyberman. He goes, and then walks back out of frame, and they carry on with their conversation, which made me laugh. And but they're quite emotive in this for Cybermen. Like they are kind of, the way they walk as well. They've obviously not really had much direction on like how they should move, because they're just kind of guys in suits. And actually, I felt they were quite like Mr. Burns coded. They're quite like, oh, the Doctor is talking to the Master, and he goes, excellent. And it was like, I was like, no, you're too human in a suit a bit for me.
I do get that. Do you know what's funny? The last Doctor Who episode that I have watched before watching this for Wholala was Power of the Doctor. I rewatched that a few days ago. And seeing Tegan in that deal with Cybermen, because also I think it's funny because the Master and the Cybermen are such synonymous characters now, and I think this is the first time, to my knowledge, that they like get a team up. And I quite like how like the Master has to play down his role. He like pretends he's subservient to them, and obviously he's not. I quite liked watching Tegan and the Cybermen in this, because like that conversation where in Power of the Doctor where she says to Doctor, like, oh, I'm surrounded by, again, it's Cybermen. I'm surrounded by Cybermen here. What do you think? And he says about Adric. I kind of felt a little bit more like, not emotional, but I felt a more emotional tie to this, because the last time that Tegan would have seen the Cybermen was when Adric died, and she suddenly sees these Cybermen and she's like, Doctor, look out, Cybermen. And again, it's camp and silly, and they just kind of go like, doing, and the Cybermen are like popping themselves in and out, and but I do think that there's both a level of like ineptitude from the characters here, and then also through the behind the scenes. So there's, again, it's me and its action figures. There was a B&M set of the Rich Turndall First Doctor in the Death Zone Dalek that came out last year, and they, on the back of the box, they get like a bit of text like, this is the Dark Tower, and and then they have a behind the scenes session, and I'll read a little excerpt from it, because basically the box just says about how like hodgepodge this is. And like they say with this Dalek model, they say, though well intended, the refurbishment of this Dalek did little to enhance the prop. Overall, it had a dishevelled appearance. It was clear the shoulders were badly painted and the silver could still be seen all the way around the lower section. All in all, the prop was a visual mess of parts, but arguably because of the unique look of the prop and its solo appearance with the First Doctor, this time played by William Hurtle, it's made an impact that remains to this day with a slightly darker grey-blue livery, lifted neckbin and higher stance. So like even on the back of the official like merch they're selling of this, they're like, this was shit, like this was really bad. And there's something like kind of camp, I think, about that.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I do like the design of the Cybermen. It's more like the way they move, the voices, all that. The Dalek, I wouldn't have noticed anything was wrong with it, but I know that people are really hardcore about the Dalek designs. I think we need to talk about the Raston Warrior Robot.
Oh, camp, pam, pam, pam.
Campers chips. Like one of the campers things I think we've ever discussed. Oh my god, the movements of this diva. It's just it's like a bit. It's like a red-nosed A bit. Like it doesn't seem like it's like almost like, how is this not for humor? It's like one of the most perfect warrior races in the universe, one of the most lethal killing machines there is. And it's just this thing just does like a star jump and then vanishes. Thump, and it just reappears and they're like, and they're like, oh god, Doctor, what's it doing? And it just jumps somewhere else. And they're like, it's playing with us, Sarah. It's playing with us. And it's like, don't move, Sarah. If we move, we'll die. And they have to stand still next to a rock. And after about 5 minutes of that, Sarah goes, Doctor, I don't know if I can do this much longer. And then it's this thing just going around them. And he spots the Cyberman and he goes, don't worry, Sarah. Just hold on now. Hold on. I think we might
just
be
a little more.
And then, to be fair, the battle between the Cybermen and this
Robot
cool. Warrior was cool. Really cool effects and actually quite violent. Like it's like throwing these like metal spears into their chest and they're exploding and they're on fire and their heads are coming off. And at one point it does this cool move where it's not even looking and it just kind of like swings its arm and slices its head off. And I was like, okay, you know what? This is great. This is really, really great.
Yeah.
There is a funnier moment though when they're like, right, quick, while it's distracted, come on, Sarah, this way. They go into the cave. And the Third Doctor has just explained to Sarah that the Raston Warrior has built-in armaments. It's got built-in armaments. And the next second they get into the cave and they go, it's its extra arrows. It's like, why has it got extra arrows?
These could come in handy. Let's grab these.
Why would it need the extra arrows? And also like a mile of rope. But despite that, I'd like to see it back. I'd like to see it reimagined as an actual threat.
Yeah, well, actually, so in the March 2008 issue of the Doctor Who magazine, Russell T Davies had said that he had interest in bringing back the Raston Warrior for one of the new series of Doctor Who, and he said that he thought the fight between the robot and the Cybermen and the Five Doctors was one of the finest in the show's history. That's a quote from Russell right there.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel in the same way that, like, I've said before about how you could bring the Flux back for a story and, like, it doesn't have to be the main point of the story. It's just like you could visit a planet and it's been destroyed by the Flux and it's just part of an episode. I feel like you could have like you could have it for a main monster or like just like a plot device within another episode, like have a Raston Warrior there as like a defense mechanism for somewhere that the Doctor needs to get into. I think that'd be a fun little throwback. There's another bit just talking about 3 and Sarah there where when they're about to use that rope to get to the top of the tower and Sarah Jane sees down, she's like, again, I don't love how she's written here, but it is really camp. She's like, well, how are we going to get over there? Fly? And the Doctor's like, oh, can you think of another idea, Sarah? And they do use the rope. But yeah, it's so funny and camp and silly, but also, like you said, like, Doctor Who is both the best show in the world and the worst show in the world. You get that camp and silly and dumb, and then you do get like an actual badass fight between the Cyberman and the Raston Warrior Robot. I love one thing, just talking about the sort of balance between camp, silly, and just accepting actual, like, quite deep story writing. I really like the little moments when, and it kind of like leads into what I was saying about Adric earlier, where characters refer to previous adventures, and specifically with me just talking about Sarah Jane and 3, The third Doctor never met the Cybermen on screen, which I think is wild. He never... Ironically, I think the only time a Cyberman was on screen during 3-0 was during the Carnival of Monsters that we watched, when they're one of the monsters shown on the screen to be within the carnival. But he never met the Cybermen, so he is explaining to Sarah what a Cyberman is, like saying, they're ruthless, they never give up, they never give in. And then she sort of nods and she goes, yep, I remember. And I really like that little bit of story writing that he's explaining to her what they are, but she tells him that she already knows because it's an adventure he hasn't had yet. And kind of almost like in that warning him, like, yeah, I know you're gonna face him again. And it happens a few times in this episode. And I think that is just very satisfying for someone who, if you now I've seen more classic stories, I think that that's a really nice way to, even if you can't give full time to like a proper One and Susan reunion, or give Sarah Jane a proper reunion she deserves, like little throwbacks to stories before.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
the pairings were interesting, weren't they, in this, and the things that companions who wouldn't normally be together go through.
Oh my god, I wrote a list. I read it to Alasdair just before we start recording. I've just realised how many companions Tegan has met to date. It's actually, man, this is just on screen. I'm sure there's a million comics and Big Finish and stuff that expands on this, but on screen within the televised show Doctor Who, Tegan Javanka, who's a companion of the 4th and 5th Doctor, has met Susan and Ian, the Brigadier, Joe Grant, Sarah Jane, Nyssa, Adric, Turlo, Mel, Ace, Kate Lethbridge Stewart, Yaz, Graham, and Dan.
She's got around.
That is quite the roster for a companion.
It's quite a roster.
Actually mad how many she's met.
Yeah.
And speaking of like companions and people meeting for the end, what I really like is the relationship that 2 and 3 have, because by this point, the first Doctor, second Doctor, and third Doctor have all already met before. By this point in the timeline, they've had the third Doctor story. Like the second Doctor even says to the Brigadier, he's like, and Omega, don't forget Omega. And I like the little bickering with the second Doctor. They're like, where's the little fellow? The little fellow is right here. When he comes in at the end. And there's the bickering between him and 3, where it's like, fancy pants, scarecrow, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I like when people, and the Brigadier, he comes in and says hi, and both Tegan and Sarah Jane are like, Brigadier, because they've both met him before. Like, I quite like, you have a lot of new pairings, but then when you do get like a familiar coming together, I really like that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. The second Doctor did really steal the show for me, I think, in this one, actually. I think there's even just moments where Raston's like, oh, you're sure none of the rest of you want to claim immortality? And they're all like, oh, no, thank you. But it's the second Doctor who really like leaps up and almost like hides behind the third Doctor and really just like takes the physicality to like a bit more of an extreme. But it's like, oh, no, I'm fine. I just really enjoy that. The silliness that's definitely gone on to inspire the 11th Doctor is very much there.
Oh, 100%.
The companion I felt was missing for me, obviously just wasn't available in this, I think she was overseas, was Joe Grant. And I'd have loved her to be in this. I feel more broadly that I just want Katie Manning back in Who.
She was considered, they did want her for it at one point, but yeah, like you said, she was in Australia and they didn't have the budget to fly her from Australia, so they were like, sorry, you can't be in it.
How cheap are they? Like, we can't do it,
sorry. Can you imagine she's like, oh darling, I'll fly myself.
Sorry. Or do the train. Yeah. That's all we'll do. And then I was on, you already know this, I'm sure we've already talked about this, but I was on Katie Manning Wiki. I need to find out if she's ever done a biography or anything. I need to read. And I was reading about her being childhood friends again with Liza Minnelli. It always surprises me.
Reese
when
talks
I read it.
about it quite a lot, yeah.
It's just the funniest pairing. Like, oh yeah, like childhood best friends, Katie Manning and Liza Minnelli.
Yeah.
It's so gay.
It's Liza! I was just looking up here. There's a funny little like 5-minute video. I'm not listening to it with sound because we're talking, but it's Liza Minnelli and Katie Manning. Like Katie's got like a beer in hand and Liza's got a drink of something.
Oh, in the 90s.
In the 90s, yeah. That's so funny. It does make me laugh every time.
Yeah, they're real besties.
They really are. They truly are.
Yeah.
I want to talk just quickly about the Time Lords because.
Oh yeah.
Like I feel like it's so interesting. I bloody love this show. It's so interesting, like looking on the third series of New Who when the Doctor talks about Gallifrey as a memory and he remembers this like beautiful planet with the Citadel and this. Yeah. And then when the Time Lords come back in the End of Time and Wilfred's like, oh, it's your people, we'll have a party. And the Doctor's suddenly really panics and scared because it's like he remembers he's lost this romantic rose-colored glasses. He's like, no, they are not a good people, and like they should not come back. Like there's the conflict of being the last Time Lords, and that's sad, but also this was an awful group of people. And you really see it in this, and you see it quite a lot through Classic Who, where the Time Lords are just an awful society. They're terrible people. And creating the death, there's a whole thing where, like, the old Time Lords created the Death Zone, but we've moved beyond that. We're beyond that. Rassilon came and stopped it, but then you also learn that Rassilon's awful, and he's not a good person either. And then the president of the Time Lords in current, he then is evil, and he's framing people for murder, and like they plant the gun on that guy that they frame, and then kill him, be like, oh well, he had a gun, and we were talking about this just before we started. We were talking about this before we started recording, that like it just really amplifies why the Timeless Child is a really good storyline to go with, because the Doctor has never fit in with the society people. The Doctor's, I was saying before that it feels like the Master just feels even better with the Time Lords. Like the Doctor has never fit in with this society of just terrible people, and it's really interesting to see in Classic Who, when the Time Lords, were here, there, and everywhere, just how like nasty they were.
Yeah. I so agree. I think it really works to say, like, of course, the Doctor never fit in. He was never really from there. Like, he was taken in and they looked after him and they raised him. But he's not one of them in the same way. And, like, maybe the Master truly is, and maybe that's why he's the way he is. But I think I really like. I've never had a beef with the Timeless Child story. I know like people will do 4-hour video essays about why I'm wrong. I hear that, but I do like it, and I feel like as well, like a lot of what's said in this about like Omega and Russell, I can't remember the names of everyone, but the idea that some of the ancient greats of Gallifrey had discovered the truth about timeless regeneration and rumors and legends. Like, it really works. Like, oh, of course they did, because until there was an artificial cap on it, that's the Doctor's natural biology. It's just kind of endless life. No need for, like, cycles. And everyone here is only able to be the way they are because of the Doctor's unique biology. But, yeah, I know people don't like it, but I think it fits quite well. It's funny as well what you were saying, like, I choose to remember the Time Lords that way. Beautiful sun-capped mountains, crisp snow, chips. And when you see Gallifrey in this, it's kind of like a tacky 80s hotel, like mixed with the set of like Alan Partridge, Knowing Me, Knowing You, and a really horrible and noisy water fountain.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is what you miss?
You're like, you're almost like, I can see the water cooler in the back. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's so, it follows, it really follows, even at this stage in the Time Lords' history, that, of course, when it came to war and they broke their kind of non-involvement rules, that they went absolutely batshit and totally overreacted and became just as bad as the Daleks. It's like, I absolutely am sure they did. Absolutely right. Like, I totally buy that. It's a good, I think it emphasizes again, like the Time War. What a great concept. What a great idea.
I'm so, like, it's such a ballsy thing for Russell to do in his first, not even just first series, but first episode. But it was like, definitely the right choice. Like, I don't think New Who would be as successful as it is if it hadn't been for the decision to get rid of all the Time Lords at first.
They're all dead and the Doctor killed them. Brilliant. Love it. I better run through a few other quick points because I think we're probably approaching the end of our story.
You go through yours and I've got a few I'll jump through as well.
Okay. One little Easter egg that I always think of when I see this. So the Master has the seal of the High Council with him, and he like goes to the Doctor to be like, you see, I have the seal of the High Council. Like, and the Doctor's like, oh, well, a fake to be sure, or stolen, or worse. And it comes back. I don't know if you remember this, but it's a really brief moment in The Name of the Doctor, which is the Matt Smith story. And he's like, seal of the High Council, like, I've got this, like, I got it from the Master in the Death Zone, I meant to give it back. And it's really, really brief, and I can't remember what he used it for. I think he sticks it on Handel's head or something for something.
Yeah.
But it's a really nice, it's literally been in the Doctor's pocket for hundreds of years. Like, I've still got this on me. It's just one of those like real deep cuts that Moffat would think to include, which is nice.
Yeah.
The Master's run in a cape, on I like the Master gets like knocked out 2 or 3 times in this, but there's a scene, someone is firing, I can't remember who, but the Master does this run in a cape, and
oh my god, yeah, it's the Cyberman.
It's extraordinary.
He's like,
it is camp on camp on camp. The run, I've never seen anything like it. The way the cape moves, it is what I would call like the textbook definition of the word scurry. With that man's run next to it is what that was. Another moment is that like you have full authority to use the mind probe, and the Time Lord turns around, and he goes, "No, not the mind,
mind probe,
not the boreworms.
It's Doctor Who's version of not the boreworms, not the mind probe,
not the mind probe." The first Doctor, we didn't really touch on this. Obviously, it's an interesting interpretation. Richard Hurndall's interpretation of the first Doctor. I'm not really sure what I thought here of it. I mean, this is now a very quick point, but I think this was very much his own take on the character, and I think he didn't, from what I've read, did not intentionally go back and watch any of William Hartnell's first Doctor. Like, kind of just vamped it a little bit and did his own thing with it, which is interesting. But I think what they arrived at, both in the writing and in the performance, is quite a stern interpretation of the first Doctor. He's quite unpleasant. The way he specifically talks to Tegan is quite shocking. He really hates Tegan for some reason. That isn't as funny as it is quite mean. Like when it's like, right, you can get some sandwiches. And I was like, oh, they're doing like the first Doctor is sexist bit again. And I was like, was that true? Like, was the first Doctor that bad? Because when they did that in the newer Moffat episode with Bill,
Twice Upon a Time,
people were quite like, "Ooh, I don't like how they made a joke out of that because he wasn't that bad." But I think it was inspired by real lines that the Doctor had about like smack on the bottom and things.
I think he probably just had more time to show the mellow side. I think especially even more so than Susan with Vicky, the Doctor was quite like grandfatherly and quite soft with Vicky, and like with Dodo as well. And so I think you got to see lots of sides to it, whereas in a time where the first Doctor comes back for a single episode, he's quite frosty and cold. But yeah, it's interesting to see. I'm here for interpretations of... I would quite like a multi-Doctor story where we've got one of the first 3 Doctors and they recast him. I'd love to see Sean Pertwee play the 3rd Doctor. I love seeing David Bradley as the first Doctor. I'd love to see someone come back and play the 2nd Doctor. It could be maybe Sam Troughton, his grandson, or someone else. Like, there's a lot of people who could play them. I would love to see it.
As the 2nd Doctor.
Matt Smith as the 2nd Doctor. There you go.
You'd have to stick eyebrows on him. That's the thing.
He really wears some little lace eyebrows. I've got a few things. I know we've got to wrap up in it, so I'll zip through some too. I love that Susan can fly the TARDIS. I mean, obviously she would be able to, but she comes in, like, she can immediately tell that they're on like preset coordinates, and as soon as she comes into the TARDIS, she's like fiddling with stuff on the console. I love that it's her home too, as well as the Doctor's. I love the ending of the episode, that it becomes a real full circle moment. It feels just like such an anniversary moment when the Doctor runs away from his responsibilities, and Tegan kind of says, like, you know, you're gonna run away from your people in a rickety old TARDIS, and he's like, well, why not? That's the way it all started. And then, I mean, there's a million things I could say about, but I just wanted to highlight a few of my favourite lines from the episode too.
Yeah.
Also, actually, before I do that, the sting that they keep doing throughout the episode.
Yeah.
Murray also takes this and does it in rows, you know, when they pass past the TARDIS for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And they do that. Obviously, it's from the titles, but it's the same sting that they have in this episode, which I really like.
I found that sting in a weird place lately.
Oh, really?
In the Church from Ruby Road, when the goblins have taken the baby and they're on the rooftop and the 15th Doctor first appears, right before the theme starts, there's a really brief, it's so subtle, like you will miss it, but it's da, da, da. It's slightly in the mix, and you barely notice it until you're looking for it, but it's just very quickly like dun, dun, dun,
I'm gonna have to give it a rewatch.
Dun, 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 dun. But there's a little bit of the theme.
I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for that. So a few lines that I liked. The line that the first Doctor says, he says, "I am the Doctor, the original," you might say, because I feel like that's then been played back on quite a lot. The bit where he says to Tegan, "Kindly refrain from addressing me as Doc." I just think he hates Australians. I think he hates Australians.
I think he does.
Speaking of the Aussie, though, I love the bit where Tegan is at the base of the temple, and she goes, "It's an entry coder." Like, she sees, it's basically like a keypad, and she's like, "It's an entry coder." I just think that's so funny.
That's the best impression you've ever done. Do it again.
It's an entry coder.
Entry coder.
It's so funny.
I
love the sort of Mr. Burns-esque excellent that the Cybermen keep doing in this episode. That's really fun.
Yeah.
There's a bit that's so gaga where the Cybermen are putting bombs around the TARDIS, and Susan says, "What are we going to do now?" And then Turlo just looks at her and goes, "Die." It's so that.
That was
and then it's very anniversary, but we also get a reverse the polarity of the neutron flow from the third Doctor, which is cute.
Yeah.
And one fine thing, it's not a quote, but return of the bubble wrap. Zoe is wearing a bubble wrap dress.
Oh, she is.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so camp.
Good spot. Oh, yeah, I like that. The final, to be honest, you covered anything I had left. I was going to say the Master I really enjoyed as well. Anthony Amy's Master I was captivated by. I thought it was so funny. He's so mischievous. Like, it's a very much like one where I'm like, ooh, like, you're evil, but like, I love to watch you and you're fun. And
it's like
I want to let
Missy.
you get away with it. Yeah, and it's like when he does get knocked down, I'm like, oh, I was quite enjoying you sort of doing nonsense there. He's very missy, very missy. And finally, that editing masterclass, where it's like everyone's back in their proper time stream, and all the other 4 Doctors are standing around, sort of talking to Raston. Cut to a car park where Tom Baker is on the floor and grinning, and Romana's grinning back, and they both get on the TARDIS, don't say a word, slam the door. Scarf gets stuck in the door and off they fly. Loved it. Like, just so clearly not from that episode that it just really made me laugh.
I just know I have a memory of it not being that scene. It's that I need someone to confirm this for me, just to let me know I'm not going crazy. But I know that there's a version out there where they're back on the punt at the end. I think that's one I had. But yeah, I mean, I've got to stop myself. I've literally got more than a page of notes that I didn't mention. But we're going to have to move on because we've got a little game to play.
A little game, go on.
A little game of camp or damp.
Oh, bitch.
Now, for anyone who has not listened to Wholala before, Camp or Damp is a little game we like to play where we go through moments in the episode we've just watched and say whether they are camp or whether they are damp. Alasdair, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sarah Jane's slow and very safe looking fall down a cliff. Camp or damp?
God, her fall was not Sarah Jane's best moment in this. The companions generally in this, I mean, they fall down, they sprain their ankles, they ask silly questions, they worry a lot about the Doctor. I'm awfully worried about the Doctor, and serve drinks and sandwiches. Is it camp or is it just horribly sexist? I think it's got to be one or the other. Her fall specifically is camp.
Yeah, camp. I think the fall was camp.
Yeah.
The return of the bubble wrap dress with Zoe's outfit, camp or damp?
Camp. Immediately camp. Why is that on her? Love it.
It's literally
brilliant.
Yeah. And finally, the Raston Warrior Robot, camp or damp?
Honestly, campus villain of all time. Like, there's nothing like it.
Not even in the Carnival of Monsters where it's like, go back to that right first class rate of hoofers.
It just there's nothing like it. You know what? The Raston Warrior Robot would have been inside that scope.
It would have been. Zip!
It would have been in there.
It would. Well, I've got a few fun facts for you, and I think you've got a few for me as well. So Louise Jameson, who plays Leela, she actually offered her services for this episode. She wanted to be in it, but especially with the 4th Doctor not returning, there was no opportunity to put her into the storylines. They couldn't do it. And I also think even if he had come back, they would have, well, I'll tell you in a second, but they would have paired him with someone else, and so I don't think she would have ever been in this story, but I can just imagine her being like, I'm free!
Yeah, I'm actually around.
I'm around. So, like I was just saying there, because of the absence of Tom Baker, they had to reshuffle the lineup. So originally, Sarah Jane was meant to be paired with Tom Baker, which I'd have loved to have seen. I'd have loved to see 4 and Sarah Jane together again. But when he declined to appear, she was paired with John Pertwee. And then, because the two of them had already been together, the Brigadier was paired with the 2nd Doctor, and the 2nd Doctor was originally meant to be paired with Jamie.
Yeah, I like Jamie. Could have done with a bit of Jamie.
Could have done with a bit of Jamie.
Jamie. I like the kilt.
Yeah. And finally, Deborah Watling, who played Victoria Waterfield, was set to reprise her role. She would have been in the cameo opposite Zoe when the Doctor spotted them as fakes, as she returns to Lethbridge as the Brigadier, whereas he was a colonel when she knew him. But she was booked on the Dave Allen show several days later, so she had to back out, and they wrote Jamie in instead, which I think is a better... Like, Jamie and Zoe, I think, is better than Victoria and Zoe.
I couldn't say. To me, it makes more sense, sure. But then I don't know enough about that era.
There you go.
Apparently, though, pivoting to one of my fun facts, Terrence Dicks said he actually felt that this, like, the changing lineup worked out for the best because he felt that 4 Doctors was probably as many as the special could actually support, and trying to make it split 5 ways through 5 pairings would have been too hard.
I think that's true, because I already at this think that the first Doctor and arguably the 5th Doctor kind of become a bit sidelined. It's more of a 2 and 3 story. And I also think, kind of like you said before, I think the 4th Doctor is just such a big character, and Tom Baker is such a loud performer, in a good way, that he would have eaten up any scene he was in and the others would have kind of fallen to the wayside. So I do agree. I like how they included 4 in the story, but I think that it works better having had one of the Doctors not be able to be there.
Yeah, it worked in the end. Another fun fact for you, I'll throw you one. Apparently, the promotional materials in the Radio Times for the 5 Doctors focus mainly on the return of the Daleks and K9, even though they were fairly minor parts of the story. And the pictures they used to promote them weren't even from the episode, but instead taken from the Power of the Daleks and the Invisible Enemy, respectively.
It's so funny where in the promo photos, when they got the Madame Two Swords Tom Baker, like they have K9 in them and 5's kind of riding K9, and he literally just is in that one, Mistress, danger, Mistress. Like, that's so funny.
Whole thing.
Yeah.
I love it. And apparently, don't know if you knew this, Robert Holmes was originally commissioned to write the story. In that version, it would have been called The 6 Doctors, featuring a robot duplicate of one of the Doctors. The main villains would have been the Cybermen, attempting to become Cyberlords by extracting some of the Doctor's DNA. Sounds kind of familiar. Holmes was never happy doing this sort of continuity mining story that relied heavily on other people's ideas. And while he did begin work on the story, he wasn't able to produce a working script. And so the anniversary special was passed along to Terrence Dicks.
I think that worked out for the best. I think, like we were saying before, 5 Doctors would have been a bit too much. So 6, having one of them be fake, that's one too many.
Who would have played the fake Doctor?
I don't know. Do you reckon just Richard Hurtle would play? It would have been ironic if it was Richard Hurtle, and they're like, "You don't look like the Doctor," and he's like, "Yeah, I know." I actually just while you were talking,
it's the waxwork Tom Baker.
It's the waxwork Tom Baker. While you were talking, I found the page from the Radio Times you were talking about with the Dalek and the K9, and it is just a picture of a Dalek that is not this Dalek, and a picture of K9, and the caption for it says, "The dreaded Daleks return, and they are determined to ruin Doctor Who's 20th anniversary celebrations and to wipe out the world. Can K9 help?" And it's like, that's not what they do. And also, no, K9 can't help.
Well, it's an open question. Can K9 help? No.
No,
K9 can't
is
help.
the answer.
No.
He literally is not allowed to help.
No.
Oh, goodness.
Gosh, so many ways this could have gone. I still think the anniversary pitch we did on About Time was quite good. But to find out what exactly that was, you'll have to go and have a listen.
Exactly. Go listen to their podcast. But before you do, I want to thank you for listening to ours. I hope you've enjoyed this little romp through the 5 Doctors. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. Next week, we decided we are going to look at a 6th Doctor and 7th Doctor episode. I'm very excited to go back on them. So you lot have actually been reaching out to us with loads of suggestions. We actually had a really great email from Anurin coming through, and they gave us some great suggestions. We've had lots of suggestions on our social media accounts, so thank you for those. Keep sending them in. We are at Wholala Pod everywhere. We're talking Blue Sky, X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and on YouTube, where you can rewatch old episodes of the podcast, all of which at Wholala Pod. You can also email us your Doctor Who fan anecdotes on our email account, which is wholalapod@gmail.com.
Yes, you can. And if you enjoyed the episode, you can rate us 5 stars. You can follow to get notified when we drop new episodes. You can buy us a coffee at ko-fi coffee. And best of all, you can share the podcast with someone who you think will really enjoy it.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for listening to us watch The 5 Doctors, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.